Now, Positively Ernie with Ernie Anastas, a New York TV legend and radio host with great positive stories and interviews.
Thanks, Ernie. You're the best.
And now, here's Ernie.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm back with you. And, I love having terrific guests on this show. And today I've got somebody very, very special. I'm going to hold the book right up in front of my face. See that? You know who that is? A lot of people will recognize her. She is a fabulous entertainer, great performer. I'm not even going to say her name. Just take a look at her right here. You guys, can you see her? She's fabulous. This is Renee Marino, and she is a fabulous person. We've just had a chance to start talking a little bit. But first of all, people should know that you're an actor, you're a singer, you're a motivator, you're a great author. And, you've done so many things. First of all, a lot of people probably have seen you in Jersey Boys, okay, in the movie and also on Broadway. Did you have fun doing that show?
Fun is an understatement. It was a dream. It was a dream. I can't even say it was a dream come true. It was more than I ever dreamed.
Oh.
Yeah.
How great. And you played Frankie Valli's wife.
Frankie Valli's wife,
right.
Mary Delgado, that sassy Spitfire.
I know. Was it fun being on that show?
Oh, my goodness. It was the best. And like I was telling you before, what made it so wonderful, it's always the people. And starting from the top down, everything starts from the top down. And Clint Eastwood being my director it's still mind-blowing to me.
Mind-boggling.
Mind-blowing.
He wrote this about you. It says, when it comes to helping you authentically communicate, Renee Marino is the woman to do that. Clint Eastwood.
I know.
What an endorsement that is.
I know. And the fact that he let me put it on the cover of the book was the best. The part of it that he loved the most is that Renee Marino is the woman to do it. That was his favorite part of,
oh my goodness,
of his testimonial. Yeah.
So you must have fun, not only being in that play, Broadway, but also in the movie. But you must have had a terrific opportunity to spend time with Clint Eastwood. I mean, you mentioned that. I mean, how encouraging and how enlightening and how motivating was that for you?
It was one of the greatest gifts, Ernie.
Yeah.
Every day that I would film, I would then sit and eat lunch with Mr. Clint Eastwood, ask him every question I could, and listen in what I call a complete way. Wow. Because I knew, I'm like many of us, I'm a sponge, and I want to use every opportunity I can to learn and to grow. And being in the presence of such greatness, I said, I need to take advantage of this. And I asked him everything I could. Clint, what was it like acting? Clint, why did you start acting? Where did you grow up? What do you think about this? What does this camera shot mean? And I learned so much. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest lessons he taught me was the gift of imperfection. Being a performer my whole life, being type A, perfectionism was very much a part of my persona. And we're filming the big breakup scene in the movie, and we do it once, and then he yells cut, and he goes, all right, now I want you to really give it to him. And I'm like, okay. So I get myself ready. I get in character. We start the scene. We're walking up the stairs, and I begin my lines. You show up for a couple of days, and you think that makes you a father, and all of a sudden, I start screaming. In frustration, I forget all my lines.
Oh.
Few seconds later, I pick it back up. We finish the scene, and he goes, that was it. And I go, Clint, I forgot all my lines. He goes, I don't care. It was real, and it was raw, and that's good.
Isn't that great?
When I was filming Meryl, and I'm thinking to myself, he's talking to me about Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
He said she used to do 1 million takes of her scenes until they were perfect. Until I showed her a rehearsal take, and she saw how organic it was, she never did 1 million takes again. And all of a sudden, I realized... imperfection is beautiful. Human beings by nature are imperfect, so we got to lean into it.
And he's a decent guy, down to earth. You remind me of something, because it's nice to be able to share. You're talking about the imperfection. When I came to New York, Eyewitness News in 1978, the news director, great guy, Ron Tindelia, legendary in the business. And I remember sitting there talking with him, and he said something similar to me. He said, Ernie, don't be afraid when you're on the air to make like a mistake. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, not information. If you have facts and stories that you're covering, you want to make sure that it's correct. He said, but if you stumble a little bit or if you just kind of do something that's a little off, he said, don't worry about that. He said, you know why that's important? I said, why? He said, because it lets people know that you're real.
You're human.
And they can relate to you.
Relatable.
You're human.
Yes, and thus you connect with your viewers so much better because now they say, oh, Ernie, well, he's so perfect, he's so smart. But then when you maybe go off on a tangent or flub a line, they're like, oh, he's human like me. Gives them permission also to take the pressure off and say, I could be myself. And that's the greatest gift we can give to the world is being ourselves.
Renee, this is perfect. I don't know if there's enough room in this in this room for the two of us because we're both so excited about life. Now, look, acting, singing, you sang recently down on the Jersey Shore, too, so you got a great voice. I heard some of that. You have all of this talent, which is wonderful. But you've done something here that I get very, very excited about. Now, this book, Becoming a Master Communicator, Balancing New School Technology with Old School Simplicity. I love that title. Let's talk about that. There's a lot going on these days when it comes to communication, right? Everybody's on the telephone. Everybody's using all the technology. Some of it is good, but some of it is so distracting in many ways, and you address that in your book.
Yes.
Tell me about it. I want to hear.
Yes, that's what this book is all about. Back in 2019, Ernie, I was doing my most recent Broadway show, Pretty Woman the Musical, and I have always been a writer. I've always wanted to write a book, and I started seeing this need for help in the area of communication, and I'm at a restaurant with a friend of mine. We're catching up, and next to us sits a family of 5. 2 parents, a teenage son, and 2 young kids, about 6.
Okay.
The entire meal, no one spoke, no one connected, because they all had their heads down in a digital device. And me, being an Italian-American, coming from a family where we sit around the kitchen table and eat and communicate and connect.
Yeah, exactly.
My heart broke, and I said, this is what I need to write the book about.
Good.
And yes, we are in this world with such a wonderful gift of technology. We have to remember, though, that we must consciously connect because all of these different outlets, texting, WhatsApping, emailing, it was created for convenience. But we don't want to choose convenience over true human connection.
Well, this is what you and I are doing right now.
Yes, look, I got to hold your hand.
Exactly.
Nothing better.
I love that, too. I mean, we're sitting here looking at each other, eyeball to eyeball, and so there's a whole different form of communication here.
Yeah.
Because when we're on the telephone, when you're doing all of the technology, on the computer and so forth, it's different.
Yes.
And it's impersonal. Right now, it's personal. Now, we're missing that. We're missing that, and we need to bring it back. I know you go out, you do a lot of speaking. You're an international speaker. And I want to hear what your message is to a lot of, adults, but also to a lot of children who really need to hear how important it is to talk.
Yes.
To talk.
To talk.
Yeah.
Everything in our lives starts with communication. And when we learn to master this skill, we become limitless. And right now, we are in this day and age where technology is only getting more advanced, right? Everybody's talking about AI, artificial intelligence, but what I teach and what I talk to children and adults alike about is the one thing artificial intelligence can never replace is human connection. So we must be the game changers in the world. We must be conscious and aware of this so we can take the time to say, my good friend Ernie, instead of sending him a text, I'm going to pick up the phone and say, how are you, my friend? And take it to that next level of communication. Because by doing so, that's how we invoke powerful relationships. That's how we stay connected. And that's how we move the world forward with technology, right? Then we can move with it and we're working together.
I agree so much. I'm talking with Renee Marino. She's a fabulous entertainer, performer, singer, dancer, writer. She does all kinds of beautiful things. And she wrote this book, Becoming a Master Communicator. I'm going to ask you something now. You talk about all these wonderful things that I totally agree. But here's the big problem. How are we going to get that message across? What do we need to do in our homes, in our schools, in our communities, in the media? How are we going to get that message across so that young people and adults as well can say, I need to talk more. I need to communicate better. How do we do that?
It all starts within us. It all starts with the example we set, and especially for the parents out there, your kids are always watching, even when you think they're not.
Yeah.
So if you're at the dinner table, have a little rule. Okay, phones away, devices away. My nieces and nephew came over for Easter weekend. We dyed Easter eggs, and they slept over their 7 years old.
Yeah.
And they wanted to bring their iPads to the table. I said, no. iPads stay over there. We talk. Let's talk about what's going on in school and just set the example. And the more we have conversations like this, real conversations like we're having, the more that we elevate that message and it gets out to the masses. And that's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm speaking on stages all over the world. I'm going to be speaking here in New York City. I'm so excited. I just found out.
Yeah, when is that?
Madison Square Garden.
Whoa.
The Aspire Tour, which is an incredible tour that has the most high-level speakers that help to improve your life financially, personal development-wise, and I'm going to be the opening speaker on July 20th in Madison Square Garden.
July 20th.
Yes, baby.
Madison Square Garden. I love this, man.
Yeah.
Renee, this is great stuff for you.
Thank you.
You know, I have to ask your reaction, too, to how people feel like when you're out there, because I do some similar things as well. And the best thing is that when you're out there with an audience and I take the microphone many times, you probably do the same, and I try to get out there and talk to the people, put the microphone there and say, how do you feel? What do you think about what we just said? So I want to know when you're talking to an audience, and even people who've read your book or feedback, what do they say to you? What kind of reaction do you get from your messages?
One of the most common reactions I get is, wow, I needed to hear this. Thank you for this reminder. One of the steps, I have a 7-step connect method, and one of those steps is talk from the heart, because speaking up is your superpower. Yeah. That's why we have our voices, our perspectives. We need to share them. And when I talk about that from stage, I cannot tell you how many women especially come up to me and they say, thank you so much. It's like I needed to hear that. I've been waiting to speak up at my workplace, or I've been waiting to speak up to my significant other, and this gave me that gentle nudge of courage. And it just makes me feel so good, because I know how important this is. And when I'm on stage, I also make sure, going back to connection, that I make eye contact with those audience members. And I always have everybody move their bodies, because moving our bodies is such an important part of being able to communicate effectively. And you can see how the energy within those individuals shifts for the positive. And all of a sudden, they're like, oh, I feel better. I could do this. I could speak up. I can communicate better.
That makes you feel so good,
yes.
To your community. We were talking a little bit earlier before we went on about how important it is to step outside of yourself and to be able to look at someone else and say, hi, how are you? Well, how are you doing? And talk to them. One of the problems that we know, and this is part of it, is people get so self-absorbed with social media. They're posting pictures of themselves and of their family and so on, but they're showing where they are, what they're doing in different kinds of poses. And I've done stories about this, and narcissism, has really taken over.
Oh, yeah.
In an unhealthy way. It's important to respect and to love and honor yourself. You have to have that.
Yes.
Because you can't do that for anybody else if you don't feel it for yourself.
Yes.
But there is a point where we have to start teaching that, you have to get away from some of that and take it to another level. Talk about other people. Show me, maybe if you're posting something, where you are and what you learned there. Somebody that you met that gave you an inspiring message or whatever it happens to be. Isn't that so important to just get away from just self?
So key. Let's start to seek to understand others instead of being understood.
Yeah.
In this world of social media, we are so about ourselves. I have to show you what I'm doing. Me, I. Put the filter on. Let me tell you what I've accomplished. And it's so dangerous. This is why there's such a high rate of anxiety. The suicide rate has gone up.
It's a serious problem.
Because what we do is we go into what I call that S&C, scroll and compare, right? Oh, and you see Sue or Judy or Joe, and you're like, wow, they're so great. They have it all together.
Yeah, they went to a party, they did something. What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
Exactly.
That age-old question.
Right.
And instead, one of the greatest practices that I share is in the morning, instead of opening up your eyes and rolling over to your nightstand to grab your smartphone, to go into comparison mode, leave it aside. Ask yourself this one question. How am I feeling? And that may sound self-absorbed, but it's not, because what it's doing is allow you to have a deeper connection with yourself, so then you don't have to do it in a showy way to prove anything, but from an authentic space to connect with yourself. then take pen to paper and write the answer. And my friends, I have to tell you how important writing is.
Oh, yeah.
Cognitive scientist Daniel Willingham has noted students remember what they think about.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're writing, they're thinking about that information, thus giving them a deeper understanding.
Yeah.
So when you write down the answer, how am I feeling? What you're doing is you're creating this connection with yourself, pulling those thoughts from your subconscious into your conscious mind through your hand and onto the page. And what it does is gives you clues, insight as to what's really going on
Exactly.
within.
That's why a lot of people keep journals.
Yes.
And they write down what their emotions and what their feelings are.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit ActiveDay.com to apply.
You used a word that I use a lot too, authenticity. Okay? You have to be authentic. Now, some people might say, this is a touchy subject, but I don't think it is. And I think there's a word that I use often, and it's spirituality. Okay? Now, spirituality can be a very positive, uplifting way of life.
Yes.
And it's a good word because it really is talking about the spirit from within. Your soul, your personality, who you are, your ego, in a positive way. So I think that it's important for us to share that with our viewers and with our audience to say, look, don't be afraid to be you. Don't be afraid to be you. Celebrate yourself in a positive way and avoid that narcissism that we were talking about, but taking that personality of who you are and sharing it with other people and then getting the feedback from them who they are.
Yes.
Who am I and who are you?
Yes. And Ernie, I call that owning who you are.
Yeah.
And what that means is being aware of, accepting, and sharing not just those parts of yourself that you love, your strengths, your accolades, your wins, but also having the vulnerability and the capability to share those parts of yourself that maybe you've looked to as weaknesses or what I call your areas of opportunity for growth. Because think about this. When we share those parts of ourselves that maybe in our lives we've wanted to hide the most, that's what connects us with others the most because it lets others know they are not alone. 4 of the most powerful words the human spirit can hear. You are not alone. So if I share about the fact that, sometimes I get really anxious. I get in my head, I overthink, and then I get frustrated with myself. When I'm honest about sharing that, there may be 1, 10, a million people out there when I share on social media that needed to hear that. Because maybe they look at me and say, oh, Renee, you're a performer. You talk about speaking to Ernie. Oh my gosh, you're doing all these great things. Nothing bad ever. You don't experience anything bad. And then I get honest and say, no, I deal with anxiety. I deal with that voice in my head that sometimes feels like it's trying to take me down. By doing that, I could be helping more people than I know. And going back to what we spoke about before, that's what makes you relatable. That's what makes you relatable. We are human beings.
I love it. I'll go back to the word spirituality because I really believe in that wholeheartedly. It's who I genuinely am and what I feel. And the word that connects us is common creator. Okay? I mean, I really believe in that. It doesn't mean religion. It means that you are recognizing the truth, that this world, every living thing, has a source. And because you believe in that source as being love, okay, then you look at every human being and you connect with them in that sense. And you say, you know what, I will respect this person. I will honor this person. If I have a difference of opinion, you can say, thank you very much, interesting, and walk away. But I think we need to get away from, because we have so much hatred and anger, divisiveness. You know all about that. It's all over the place.
It's all over.
And the heart of what you're talking about can help to reduce that kind of anger and an uncivilized way of living.
Yes, Ernie. And one of the greatest ways to overcome that is through complete listening. Let's face it. We can turn on any news channel at any time of day on any network and see a lot of people talking over each other, talking at each other, but never talking with each other. And that's because in this world, we've all gotten so attached to our own labels, whether they be religious, cultural, political. And as a result, when we're in a conversation and the person who's speaking says something that we identify as a difference, boom, we cut off from listening. And thus we see the great divide we're living in. But when we come from a space of understanding that we are such a small, minute part of this existence, and there is a higher power, whatever that is you believe, your perspective changes. And when you meet people, you do have the ability to listen in an active way, because it's not about me, I. Ernie, this is what I do. This is who I am. But you sit back and you say, tell me about yourself.
Exactly. And, you know, you started talking about this, and we both agree. It starts from us. Okay, we're the ones that become the catalyst. You know, you start talking to somebody, you share that message, you talk to other people, and you try to generate that kind of mutual feeling. I wish, and I know you're going to agree with me, I wish we had better leadership everywhere. I don't care whether it's in politics, business, wherever it happens to be. Leaders who get the same message and say, you know what, I'm going to create a campaign where we do, you know, hands across New York, hands across America, hands across the world, that we create programs through these leaders rather than what they're doing, and I don't like what they're doing, but to be able to bring us all together in that common thread of leadership, messages that share what you're talking about here. Communication, man. Good communication and respecting one another.
Respecting one another instead of, as you said, leadership in all areas coming from a place of ego.
Right.
This is what I can do. It drives me batty because I'm like, no, it's not about you. And going back to Clint Eastwood, that is one of the parts that made him stand out the most for me. When he was directing, there was no micromanaging. It wasn't about him at all. Sometimes he would walk up to me in a scene, Ernie, and he'd go, one time he comes up to me and goes, you know, you look like Veronica Lake in this scene. and I'm so used to, you know, Broadway and being directed, and I'm like, so is that okay? Like, do you want me to change it? He's like, it's great. Just wanted you to know. And then walks away. And then in other scenes, he let us improv. I mean, we improvised. I'm not kidding. One scene for almost 15 minutes. Wow. And at the end, he goes, oh, I can't wait to edit that one.
Isn't that great?
And it was so beautiful because, again, he was our leader. And because he didn't lead from ego, he bled that through the rest of his team, coming down to his actors.
I love this.
And as a result, guess what? He was able to pull out the best performances that he could from his actors because that trust that he had in us activated that trust within ourselves. And like you're saying, if we have that leadership where it's about about us, opening the door to communication, to talk about our differences and embracing them, the world would change for the better.
No question about it. You know, I love what you said about Clint Eastwood and the inspiration, you know, and the motivation that he provided for you and probably all the other actors around there. Yeah. And to kind of wrap it up, I think it comes down to people all the time and who you pal around with. You know, you've heard that line, people are like elevators. They can take you up or down. And if you're with the Clint Eastwoods of this world and Renee Marino, but if you are with people who give you that kind of inspiration and give you that lift, that motivation that we need, that can make a difference. So we have to be careful who we choose to be with, okay?
Always.
It's important.
Yes.
Because if you're around good people, I know you had great love and respect for your dad, and he inspired you in many ways, your parents, your family.
Yes.
I read a survey recently about asking young people, who are your heroes? Number one answer, my parents. Number one. They didn't mention, you know, some star.
I love that.
They talked about family.
I love that.
Yeah.
Family. And family is everything. And that's the saying from Jersey Boys, which is why that show is so near and dear to my heart. But family, if you don't have a mom and dad that you're close with, you know, maybe your family dynamic isn't traditional, that's fine. Some of the greatest people in my world are my chosen family.
Yes.
Those people that I handpicked, like you now, Ernie, you're one of them. I'm telling you, so get ready. We're together. That's it. Those chosen family members are so special because you had the choice to say, I want you in my world. So yes, we must consciously connect in every area of our lives, starting with the people we surround ourselves with, starting with the way we choose to communicate, and the way we communicate with ourselves, because that's the first step.
I love this.
How we communicate and connect with ourselves. That sets the foundation, the framework for all of our external communication.
Renee, I love what you say. I love you.
I love
and
you.
You really have brought, a great message here. This has been a joy talking with you. And we'll mention your book again, Becoming a Master Communicator. And you are also going to be appearing July 20th, you said, at Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
We are looking forward to that. How do people get tickets for that? What do they do?
Go to aspiretour.com.
Yeah.
Yes. Aspire Tour. So ASPIRE tour.com.
Fantastic.
Yes.
I'll be there.
Good.
I'm going to come and see you. Congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your life. And the message that you're bringing across. You are really a symbol for all of us to be able to go out there and try and help people. That's what it's all about.
Yes.
In the end, I interviewed so many different people. In the end, someone said to me, this is what you'll be thinking about. Who did I love and who loved me?
And the Maya Angelou quote, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And when you can look someone in the eye and let them know you're invested in them and you're listening, they are going to want to stay in your world. And I want to thank you, Ernie, because truly you are such a genuine, authentic human being. You are such a connector of people, and that's why you've had the success and you continue to have the success
it's
you
a
do.
gift like yours.
Because you make people feel seen, heard, and understood, and that's all people want. If we can understand that, the human spirit just wants to feel seen, heard, and understood, and you are an example of that. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, too. Irma Bombeck had a great line. She said, when I die and I face God, I'm going to say, I have nothing left. I've used all the talent you gave me.
That's it. Used it all, baby.
I'm empty.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, Renee Marino. Don't forget her book, and don't forget to come see her July 20th at Madison Square Garden. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.